Hi. So I thought we could go over some of the things that we have not yet discussed uh, in our skills and techniques class. So we're going to be moving into the second tape. And I think everybody did a great job with their first tape. Uh, I understand, and I hope you do too. Nobody's first tape is going to be perfect. Um, I think that uh, it's really time to kind of get your feet wet, see what it's like, um, and to understand what it's like uh, learning through this process. Uh, So first we uh, tape and we learn by doing, by applying our basic skills and techniques um, in that role play with your partner. And the second tape, you'll have a different partner. Everybody has different partners for each tape. And also remember that uh, throughout this process, we're not doing therapy, we're doing basic, uh, uh, we're not basic self-awareness and understanding and just, practicing some of those uh, techniques without getting too deep. You're always in control of your session. You can always say, time out. Um, I'm not comfortable talking about this any longer, and you stop. You never have to bring up anything that you're uncomfortable discussing. Everything's within your control. You could always start over, you could always retape. Um, so, uh, moving forward with that, so you learn by applying and practicing those basic skills. Uh, then you learn by watching yourself on video and uh, by getting feedback um, from other classmates and from professors. And you also learn by being a client in these role plays. And finally, you learn by watching other people's tapes and by giving them constructive feedback. And then, uh, so there's multiple ways and multiple levels uh, to the way in which we learn in this class. I hope that you're finding uh, this uh, teaching method to be meaningful and helpful. And so let's talk a little bit more about some of the basic skills and techniques that we haven't discussed yet. Um, One of the things that comes up a lot, especially in multicultural counseling, is things like uh, social distance. And I'm not talking about like COVID social distancing. I'm talking more about um, proximity with others, like proximity with your client. Um, and eye contact and facial expressions and body language and things like that. Um, it's said, depending on your culture and your cultural background, uh, well over half of what we express is expressed through body language. So it's not just vocally expressed, it's also expressed through facial expressions, through body language, through how close or far away we sit or stand to other people. through eye contact or a lack of eye contact. And all that does have cultural variables. Um, Let me give you my take on some of these things. Um, so, as far as cultural background, um, there are many, many cultures, and I love experiencing other cultures. I love learning about them. But I know that I'm never going to be an expert on somebody else's culture if I haven't experienced it for myself. Um, there are so many subcultures within every culture, even down to family systems. Um, so, what do we do? Uh, well, the first thing, and I think the most important thing, is to build trust with our clients. And uh, one of the ways that I do that is I express that uh, I will not judge them, I will not place my values on them, um, and that I would like to learn about their own background, their own cultural background, family background, their own personal history, um, so that I could better understand uh, who they are as an individual. And I hope that they feel comfortable sharing a bit of that with me. Um, Sometimes I talk about eye contact. I don't talk about it all the time. But for instance, um, when I first became a counselor, when I was a student, I found maintaining eye contact a bit uncomfortable. Um, but since then, with practice, I have become more comfortable maintaining eye contact. Now, in some cultures, uh, that could be seen as being disrespectful, perhaps disrespectful to elders, disrespectful to gender, uh, whatever the case might be. And if I get a sense that that may be an issue, it's always good to talk about it, whatever it might be. Uh, so I usually say that I want to respect their cultural values. I'd like them to share them with me and to let me know if I do anything that offends them so that I can correct it. Um, I also tell them that I like to maintain eye contact, but they don't have to. It's whatever they feel comfortable with. Now, one of the interesting things that I found is that as I build professional trust with a client, uh, if they did not maintain much eye contact to begin with, the more trusting the professional relationship becomes, the more eye contact will be maintained by the client. So it is a sign of comfort level and trust as well. There are other reasons why individuals may not wish to maintain eye contact. Uh, if there was a history of abuse or um, or other traumatic scenarios as well, that can affect it, or simply whatever their family system might have been. That's just one example. When we think about facial expressions, as a therapist, I like to be genuine with my client. Um, I feel that it's acceptable for me to express an emotional reaction if it's appropriate. So, for instance, if I'm empathic and something that the client shares with me saddens me, I think it's acceptable for me to express the emotion of sadness. Um, I think that if a client expresses joy, it's acceptable for me to express happiness as well. I think it's okay to laugh with a client. I do not think it's okay to express an emotion that uh, may be hurtful to the client or make a client uncomfortable. So, those are the emotions in myself that I monitor. So, uh, I've been in counseling a long time. Not much shocks me, but if somebody did share something that was shocking, I would probably not express shock in my face. However, I may share something verbally that is appropriate. Um, I would uh, not express secondary emotions like anger or something like that. I would not laugh at a client, but I would laugh with a client if it was appropriate. Um, Body language. Uh, I try to sit. Um, I just normally sit with my hands like this in my lap, and my elbows resting on my armchair. Um, and I normally place both feet on the floor or across my legs. Um, but uh, I believe that it is, uh, there are just as many things expressed through body language as facial expression. And I like to have an open and accepting uh, and relaxed uh, sitting position. I try not to cross my arms. I don't want to be seen as judgmental or closed off. Um, Sometimes when I'm thinking I will go like this, but I don't want to kind of be misperceived as looking critically or something like that. So I usually try to simply sit in a relaxed manner. Um, Other things could send messages like moving my foot back and forth. They may see that as nervousness or anxiety. Um, and of course, there are countless different movements or expressions. Those are just some examples. One of the most interesting things that I've found uh, culturally when I visited other cultures um, are proximity to one another. Um, People who have grown up, and this is a generality, it's not for everybody, um, but most individuals who have grown up in America uh, have a larger sense of personal space. And unless they really know somebody else fairly well, they will maintain a certain distance. Whereas many other cultures uh, do not maintain as much personal space as we do. And many times Americans feel uncomfortable visiting other cultures because of personal boundaries in uh, personal space. Even things like sharing a table at a restaurant with a stranger. Uh, Many places that's perfectly acceptable. Um, and yet in America, uh, people would be offended if somebody shared, uh, just sat down at your table. Uh, we are quite possessive about those things. Um, let's see. Uh, there are some interesting things. So, in many cultures, it would be considered an insult to cross your legs, but in a way that you would show your heel, the bottom of your foot, to another person. That is considered an insult because you're walking on your feet all day and they may be dirty. And, that is considered disrespectful. Um, that's probably one of the reasons I sit the way I do. Um, the bottom of my feet are usually facing towards the floor. Even if I cross my legs, my feet, the bottoms will be facing the floor. There are many different nuances depending on culture and clients and age and all kinds of things. So it's impossible to know them all, but it's always acceptable to discuss these things with a client. And you don't have to do this for your tape in this class. It's just something that I wanted to discuss as a basic skill or technique. As as we move through uh, to this second tape, um, we when you begin the second tape, you don't have to go through the entire memorized beginning. Like you don't have to go through confidentiality or limits of confidentiality or anything like that. Um, we're just going to be refining those basic Rogerian skills and techniques. Now, after the second tape, after we review it, I'm also going to teach everybody REBT and CBT. I think that's something you can try for your third tape. It's a very easy theoretical concept that we could incorporate with these basic person-centered skills and techniques. So we're going to begin at the point where you introduce yourself, you say, what would you like to be called? And we're going to go right to what brought you here today. And that's going to be your beginning for this next tape. Now, uh, remember, um, it's going to be 25 to 30 minutes long. And, but you're not going to have that memorized part to share in the beginning. We're just going to work on our skills. And depending on what the client brings up, that's going to be the domain in which you begin. And we're just going to begin by using empathy and reflection of feeling and trying to get the client to a deeper feeling and something that is deeper than a secondary emotion. And after watching everybody's tape for the first tape, I hope you're getting a better idea of these concepts. And remember, there's no pressure. Uh, Nothing bad will happen. You'll you'll always get a chance to retape, and that's kind of the nice thing about recording. Um, so remember, we're working towards mastery learning and not just a grade or something like that. I want you to be successful, and I will help you uh, to be able to use and learn these skills. Now, we're going to focus more on the second tape on a few different things. First of all, Um, the first thing is reflection of feeling and finding a deeper feeling. The use of the basic skills like paraphrase, open-ended questions, uh, drawing out a narrative or a story, and at the end of the session, a summary. But once you get to that deeper feeling, and then you begin to process it a little through paraphrase and narrative and open-ended questions, uh, a little bit about past and present, then I'd like you to try to explore the other domains. And remember what those domains are. Uh, Relationships are always the largest domain, and because they have three subcategories. So you've got family of origin and the relationship with them growing up, and if they have a relationship now with them. So that's kind of past and present. And then the second subcategory of relationship is uh, peers and social friendships. And the third would be if the client has a significant other or a relationship, and or perhaps they had a recent one and they're no longer in that relationship, and that would be acceptable if the client wants to talk about that. Um, And then, so we want to see how this deeper feeling plays out in each one of these relationship categories or subcategories. And uh, remember, when people are talking about relationships, we always want to refocus onto the client and talk about the client. We don't want to focus on the other person in the relationship, because they're not our client. They're not in the session. When we move to a new domain like work or academics, school or career, we're going to start all over again. So it would not be appropriate to say, oh, have you experienced the same feeling in work and academics? We need to start over fresh and see if the same feeling appears in a different domain. And you can talk about school and work separately as two different subcategories if you want. And the final domain is physical, but that's usually not one that we need to bring up too much unless somebody's struggling with a physical condition or problem. And then they may experience some feelings associated with that. And then at the end of this second tape, um, you're going to summarize the session. If you want, uh, you can help the client to set some goals, but it's the client coming up with the goals. It's not the counselor. So you would just be facilitating some goal setting for the next week, maybe some long-term goals as well. And you summarize at the end of the session. That's pretty much it. You'll just be talking more about the content rather than that memorized part in the beginning. Now, there is another part to this, and what Dr. Samid, Jeff Samid, and I would like you to do is a couple things. Watch this tape yourself before class, and then, um, and I know we may have uh, some more tape one to review before you're doing your second tape. and that's okay if we still have some to do. Whenever you do your second tape, um, we'd like you to listen to it and watch it at home and critique yourself. It's good to critique oneself. And uh, we do have a questionnaire in the syllabus, and simply answer the questions uh, honestly. And it's all about self-awareness. How can you improve? What did you like? What didn't you like? Things like that. And I think there's probably 3 sections in that. And uh, and you can discuss that with the class then when we review your tape 2. Um, the other thing we'd like you to do is uh, find 10 to 15 minute, these are 25 to 30-minute tapes, and we'd like you to find, you know, a 10 to 15-minute segment where it shows you leading into getting at a deeper feeling and processing that with paraphrase, drawing out a narrative, things like that. Um, and, a lot can happen in 10 to 15 minutes. That's a half your tape, basically. Um, but we'd like to find a 10 to 15-minute segment that you would like to focus on and share with the class. Um, let's see. I think that's probably it for now. But if you have any questions or comments, you can email me. And thanks.